Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next hour. Electioneering heats up in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues mega southern push in Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, counters Rahul Gandhi's Shakti Bap. Vladimir Putin wins Russian presidential polls for record sixth time. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Putin on his re-election. Israel offers Hamas 6-week Gaza truce in return of 40 hostages in mediated talks in Qatar. Israeli troops raid Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Armed confrontation pushing Haiti to anarchy, over 360,000 civilians displaced. Let's first get you the latest on what's happening at home in India as it builds up for the world's largest democratic general elections. As the election season is heating up in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a scathing attack on Congress leader Rahul Gandhi over his controversial Shakti remarks. Prime Minister continued with his southern push in the states of Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Rahul Gandhi has retorted with a clarification on his remarks. That and other political developments of the day in our next report.
With the announcement of the general election schedule in India, campaigning season is heating up in the country. On Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a public meeting in the southern state of Telangana. Prime Minister Modi hit back at Congress leader Rahul Gandhi over his Shakti remark. Prime Minister said he is ready to take on those who proclaim to put an end to Shakti. He said he is a worshipper of Shakti and those who represent it, such as the mothers, the sisters and the daughters.
मैं भारत मां का पुजारी हूं। मैं आप शक्ति स्वरूपा सब माता बहन बेटियों का भी पुजारी हूं। और जिन्होंने कल शिवाजी पार्क में इंडिया अलायंस ने अपना घोषणा पत्र शक्ति को खत्म करने के लिए किया है, मैं इस चुनौती को स्वीकार करता हूं और मैं इन शक्ति स्वरूपा माताओं बहनों की रक्षा के लिए जान की बाजी लगा दूंगा।
The war of words erupted after Rahul Gandhi's remarks on the last day of his Bharat Joro Nyaya Yatra in Mumbai. Gandhi on Sunday had raised concerns on the EVMs using the Hindi word Shakti to emphasize the opposition's struggle against the might of the state.
हिंदू धर्म में शक्ति शब्द होता है। हम शक्ति से लड़ रहे हैं।
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi continued with the southern push. After Telangana, the Prime Minister was in Karnataka. He addressed a public rally in Shivamoga where he slammed the opposition for corruption. He also participated in a roadshow in Coimbatore. In other poll developments, Telangana Governor and Puducherry Lieutenant Governor Tamilisai Soundarajan resigned from her respective posts.
I am happy that I am returning for my people's service. I thank all the sisters, brothers, elders of the people of Telangana, and I am ever the sister of Telangana. I really thank them for the love and affection shown on me.
In the national capital, all BJP Lok Sabha candidates of Delhi, along with Delhi Unit Chief Virendra Sachdeva, held a press conference. He exuded confidence of winning all the 7 Lok Sabha seats of Delhi. On the other side, southern state of Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and the state's Congress President K. Selva Perunthagai held a meeting to discuss seat sharing for the upcoming general elections.
No, DMK is already in the field. We are working, our cadre are working, and we have been campaigning. Too many number of public meetings are being held, and now the takeoff will be for the elections. And we are sure that all the 40 seats, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, will be won by our alliance.
Meanwhile, the Election Commission of India has issued orders for the removal of the Home Secretary in 6 states, namely Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Additionally, the Secretary of the General Administrative Department in Mizoram and Himachal Pradesh have also been removed. Election Commission has also taken the necessary action to remove the Director General of Police of West Bengal. Shubhendu Ghosh report for DD India.
Bharatiya Janata Party BJP and its allies on Monday announced the seat sharing agreement for 40 upcoming general election seats in Bihar. While the BJP will contest on 17 seats, same as 2019, Janata Dal United has got 16, one less than the previous elections. 5 seats have been allocated to Lok Janashakti Party and 1 each to Upendra Kushwaha's Rashtriya Lok Samta Party and Chittaranam Manjhi's HAM. And as India prepares to hold the world's largest democratic elections, let's take a look at the country's main political players and their strategies. As India prepares for general elections, it is important to understand the country's current political scenario. There are 2 main players in the fray. On the one side is the National Democratic Alliance led by incumbent Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party. Challenging the NDA is the India Alliance or Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance, which was formed in 2023. While the NDA comprises nearly 40, mostly regional parties, the India Alliance has over 20 opposition parties, including the Congress and Samajwadi Party. The 2024 polls will be a test of new coalitions. The formation of the India Alliance also marked the end of the Congress-led United Progressive Alliance. Let's take a look at how the existing and former alliances performed in the last general elections that were held in 2019. A total of 542 constituencies went to polls. The NDA won 353 seats, out of which 303 seats were backed by the BJP alone. The UPA won 91 seats, out of which the Congress backed 52, while 98 seats went to other parties and independent candidates. Coming back to the present time, in the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, which has the highest number of parliamentary seats, the Congress and SP have struck a seat-sharing deal. Of the total 80 seats, the Congress will field its candidates in 17 constituencies, while SP and other parties of the alliance will contest from 63 constituencies. However, the opposition India Alliance has been struggling to keep its flock together. In another jolt to the India Alliance, Bihar State's incumbent Chief Minister, Janata Dal United Chief Nitish Kumar, returned to the NDA. In the 2024 polls, Prime Minister Modi will be aiming for a 3rd consecutive term. The India Alliance, however, has not floated a PM candidate as yet. Apart from the battleground states, including UP, Bihar and Maharashtra, elections will also be closely watched in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. This is the first general election after the abrogation of Article 370, which granted special status to the erstwhile state. J&K was also bifurcated into 2 union territories, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Coming to poll issues and promises, PM Modi has vowed to make India the world's 3rd largest economy. Also, recently inaugurated Ram Temple is expected to feature prominently in the BJP's campaigns. In 2019, building the temple was among the party's key promises. As for the opposition, the Congress decided to organize a national nationwide march called Bharat Jodo Nyay Yatra, or India Unity and Justice March, to garner public support. From issues to campaigning, elections in India are multifaceted. But first and foremost, they are a celebration of democracy which sees voters from all walks of life choose their representatives. Bureau Report, DD India. Let's turn to some international stories now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has secured a historic victory in the country's elections, solidifying his grip on power and setting the stage for an extended term in office. With a resounding win, Putin is poised to become Russia's longest-serving leader in over 2 centuries, surpassing even Joseph Stalin. More in this report.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has secured a historic victory in the country's elections, solidifying his grip on power and setting the stage for an extended term in office. Putin won 87.28% of the vote in re-election. According to the Electoral Commission, with a resounding win, Putin becomes Russia's longest-serving leader in over 2 centuries, surpassing even Joseph Stalin.
Initially, I would like to thank Russian citizens. We are all one team, all Russian citizens who came to polling station and voted. From the vote of every citizen of Russia comes the unified will of the Russian Federation's nation. It is an essential basis of country's existence. Its steady development in the field of defense capabilities, science, education, and in other most important fields.
Amid heightened tensions with the West over the conflict in Ukraine, President Putin issued a stern warning, cautioning against any interference from Western powers, suggesting it could escalate into a global conflict.
I think that anything is possible in the modern world, but I have already said this, and it is clear to everyone that this will be just one step away from a full-scale World War III. I don't think anybody is interested in this.
Just after the results were announced, messages started pouring in from across the globe. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Vladimir Putin. He wrote on X, "Warm congratulations to His Excellency Mr. Vladimir Putin on his re-election as the President of the Russian Federation. Look forward to working together to further strengthen the time-tested special and strategic partnership between India and Russia in the years to come." North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Chinese President Xi Jinping also extended congratulations to Putin, highlighting the strengthening strategic ties between their nations and Russia.
China congratulates on Putin's election win. China and Russia are each other's largest neighbors and comprehensive strategic partners in the new era. We firmly believe that under the strategic guidance of President Xi Jinping and President Putin, China-Russia relations will continue to move forward.
Putin's victory, with 87.8% of the vote, overshadowed his opponents. The communist candidate Nikolai Kharitonov securing second place with less than 4% of the vote. Newcomer Vladislav Davankov and ultra-nationalist Leonid Slutsky trailed behind, reflecting the overwhelming support for Putin among Russian voters. Amish Mahajan's report, DD India.
And DD India's Tasha Chernyshyova has more on Russian response to the West's criticism of their elections from Moscow.
Well, as expected, Moscow says it is nonsense and absurd to call the election in which 87% of the voters cast their ballot for the incumbent President Vladimir Putin as illegitimate. The Kremlin has dismissed all the criticism coming from the Western countries, saying that if they say the election was illegitimate, then these 87% of people who cast their ballot for Vladimir Putin are illegitimate as well. And obviously, the Kremlin is now pointing to the fact that the turnout turnout in this year's presidential election has set the new record in Russia's modern history, reaching 77%, with almost 99% of the ballots already counted. The Kremlin from the very beginning was saying that it was prepared for this sort of reaction to come from the Western countries, but at the same time Moscow does insist that all the voting procedures have been taken in line with the international norms.
Time for a short break. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Truce talks between Israel and Hamas set to resume in Qatar. North Korea's frequent ballistic missile launches have been condemned by US, South Korea and Japan. Haiti faces deepening humanitarian crisis. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Stalled talks aimed at securing temporary ceasefire and hostage deal in the conflict between Israel and Hamas were expected to resume in Qatar's capital Doha. As Israel says, this stage of negotiations could take at least a couple of weeks. Israel also carried out a precise operation at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital early Monday, killing the head of the operations directorate of Hamas's internal security, who was said to be hiding in the compound of the hospital. Dheeraj Das gets us more in this report.
As the Israel-Hamas conflict enters day 164 on Monday, the prospect of a truce still looms as Israel is sending a high-level delegation headed by its Mossad chief to Qatar for mediated talks with Hamas. The talks are designated to secure a 6-week truce under which Hamas would release 40 hostages. Israel says this stage of negotiations could take at least 2 weeks. The talks in Qatar would mark the first time both Israel and Hamas leaders join negotiations since the start of the holy month of Ramadan. As truce talks were set to begin in Doha, Israeli troops conducted a precise operation at the compound of Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital early on Monday. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reaffirmed his determination to launch an offensive in Rafah. Netanyahu said Israel would push into Rafah, the last relatively safe place for Hamas in Gaza.
Our goal in eliminating the remaining terrorist battalions in Rafah goes hand in hand with enabling the civilian population to leave Rafah. It's not something that we will do while keeping the population locked in place. In fact, we'll do the very opposite. We'll enable them to leave because our consideration for reducing and minimizing civilian casualties has guided us and will continue to guide us in the future.
Israel confirmed the killing of Faik Mahbouf, the head of Operations Directorate of Hamas's internal security, who was hiding in a compound at the Shifa hospital, from which he operated and advanced terrorist activity. In Brussels, European Union ministers are meeting to discuss Gaza and humanitarian aid shipment. Ahead of the meeting, EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said he was confident that EU would find an agreement to impose sanctions on Hamas.
2 member states have asked for analyzing the association agreement point of view. I will ask the ministers to debate about it. This is a political orientation debate, and according with the result, we will proceed one way or another. We are not talking about full suspension of the association agreement. This would be something for the Commission to propose. We are talking about the political dimension based on the respect to humanitarian law.
Palestinians in Gaza City gathered outside an UNRWA warehouse on Monday to receive aid. Huge crowds were seen standing outside the building, with some walking away carrying white bags. Meanwhile, the head of the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency has said the hunger in Gaza Strip was man-made. Israeli authorities have denied permission to the head of the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, to enter the Gaza Strip on Monday. Dheeraj Das report for DD India.
And DD India correspondent Alex Cadia joins us live from Amman, Jordan. Alex, what is the latest on the truce negotiations in Qatar?
Well, we know that the ceasefire negotiations have started. David Barnea, the head of the Israeli intelligence agency, the Mossad, is in Qatar. He is talking to the Egyptian and Qatari mediators. There's also contact with the United States. He's described the next phase of negotiations as long and difficult, and it will take at least 2 weeks, according to Israeli officials, to get anywhere near to the next phase of these negotiations. Of course, the agreement here would be a 6-week ceasefire deal in exchange for the release of 40 Israeli hostages, women, elderly and injured hostages being held in inhuman conditions in the Gaza Strip. In response, Hamas wants Israel to release 700 to 1,000 prisoners being held in Israel, and they also want to work towards an end goal of the full withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip, something that Israel cannot contend with. Now, this phase of the negotiation could take a couple of weeks. We know that this is certainly a move forward in terms of these negotiations, because the last one in Cairo did not feature an Israeli delegation after Israel said Hamas failed to provide a list of the surviving hostages. We know the delays behind these negotiations are because it's difficult for the Hamas representatives in Qatar to communicate with their partners, the other Hamas leaders in Gaza, because of the situation on the ground. So certainly that situation on the ground making things more complicated, but again, the humanitarian catastrophe on the ground making things more urgent as well.
A little more on that, Alex. We've heard about the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza. What details can you share with us?
Well, the latest we have from a UN-backed report is that northern Gaza is just weeks away from total famine. That will happen in May. Total famine in May, unless things change, unless a ceasefire is agreed. And for the rest of Gaza, well, 70% of the population of the Gaza Strip will have to deal with catastrophic hunger. And this is also affecting children. We know from UNICEF that malnutrition among children is reaching unprecedented levels, and that they say children don't have the energy even to cry. That is the situation as described by those aid organizations on the ground, but it is also a horrific situation for those more than 100 Israeli hostages still being held in conditions that the UN described as inhuman in Gaza. They've been taken more than 160 days ago, and their loved ones have been waiting this whole time to see their loved ones. One of those hostages, an 86-year-old, marked that birthday just yesterday in captivity in Gaza. And that really gives you a sense of how horrific the situation is. Desperate for the Palestinian civilians, desperate for the families of those hostages, desperate for those hostages on the ground. Therefore, the need for a ceasefire felt very urgently.
Alex, thank you for those updates. And one crisis to another. Haiti's long-standing struggle for self-governance and a deepening humanitarian crisis has reached a critical juncture in the Caribbean nation. The persistent violence has forced thousands of Haitian refugees to seek shelter in neighboring Dominican Republic. Concurrently, a charter flight transporting numerous U.S. citizens escaping the escalating gang violence in Haiti arrived in Miami on Sunday. Here's more.
An armed confrontation between criminal factions and the national security forces in the Haitian capital of Port-au-Prince has thrust the nation into complete disarray, leaving its populace in anguish. The United Nations has said the ongoing violence and disorder have displaced 360,000 people in Haiti, with over half of them being children. This ongoing violence and hunger has driven thousands of Haitian asylum seekers into neighboring Dominican Republic. Authorities in the Dominican Republic maintained vigilant surveillance along its border with Haiti amidst the ongoing violence.
The situation here in Haiti, most of the people are joining the fight because there is no money coming in from Haiti. so that they can buy their merchandise. But there is no freedom. All the people who come here have to leave through the hills because from the Haitian capital, you can hardly come here because gangs are blocking the way over there.
Numerous individuals faced challenges departing the conflict-ridden nation as anti-government factions have effectively closed off Cape Haitian International Airport.
My employer is threatening to fire me. I have 2 jobs in the United States. One of my employers told me that my position is guaranteed and I can wait for flights to resume. But the other gives me 1 month's deadline because they are short of employees.
On Sunday, Pope Francis extended his prayers to Haiti amidst reports from rights organizations detailing rampant killings, abductions and turmoil.
I urge all political and social actors to set aside any personal interest and commit themselves in a spirit of solidarity to the pursuit of the common good, supporting a peaceful transition toward a country that, with the help of the international community, is equipped with sound institutions capable of restoring order and tranquility to its citizens.
Facing a dire humanitarian situation with 90% of its population residing below poverty, Haiti is in urgent need of a democratically elected government. Prime Minister Ariel Henry has declared his intention to step down upon the establishment of a transitional presidential council. The last elections took place in 2016, and amidst the current turmoil, organizing new elections poses significant challenges. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Mena Mary Trini joins us live from Caracas. Mary, with gang violence raging on and thousands displaced, where is help coming from for Haiti, if at all?
Well, there's little food or medicines coming in or out of Haiti. We need to remember that for over 2 weeks, gangs members have taken control and blocked all the entrance from the main airport and port of the country. So they right now have basically are calling all the shots. They have the control of the food that remains inside of Haiti. Some residents have decided to move to local schools that have been used as refugee centers. The UN says the little food that they have inside of Haiti is being delivered to the areas that they can access, but some of the food have been stolen by gang members. So it is a concerning situation for residents that are running low from water, essentials, and even for gasoline that is needed for the police or other authorities in order to move around of the country. Some U.S. citizens, about more than 30 U.S. citizens, were evacuated over the weekend to a different, they were moved to a different city and evacuated by the Department of State from an airport in the north of the island. They were stranded there, visiting their families or making some ventures in the island, but they have, most of them, double nationality, Haitian and American, and they decided to evacuate due to the growing violence. And the situation, as I said, is complicated in order to access to food. Some residents are moving to the border, to the Dominican Republic, where they can access to one location in the border, and they can buy food and then return to the island to sell those supplies they buy at the Dominican Republic.
And with no Prime Minister, Haiti appears to be effectively without any political leadership. What are the implications of this power vacuum in the country?
Well, the best word to describe that is a chaos, anarchy, because the political vacuum is being filled by gang members. They are the ones that are taking the decisions. It was proposed transitional council by several Caribbean nations, neighboring Caribbean nations, and the United States. But that council is to be implemented. There are still several differences between the people asking for the transition. And the main thing that they are asking is not foreign intervention, that the Haitians are the ones who have the right to protect their sovereignty and to choose their next authorities. But right now, the real power is in the hands of the gangs.
Mena, thank you for those updates. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Members of climate movement Extinction Rebellion protested outside the London headquarters of British broadcaster GB News on Monday. Protesters sprayed the building with black paint, blocked the entrance with a metal tripod. Bulgarian Foreign Minister Maria Gabriel of the centre-right GERB party agreed on Monday to form a new government following resignation of Prime Minister Nicolae Denkov on March 5th. Gabriel accepted the mandate with a sense of responsibility as Bulgaria needs stability. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg met Azerbaijani Defense Minister Zakir Hasanov in Baku on Monday during his three-nation tour of South Caucasus. Defense Minister praised success achieved in cooperation with NATO and noted the importance of further developing mutual ties. Iranians celebrate Nowruz, the Persian New Year, with wishes for peace and prosperity and happiness. People crowded Tehran's Grand Bazaar on Monday to shop for food, clothes and decorative items ahead of the New Year. In the Iranian calendar, Nowruz marks the first day of spring and the vernal equinox and celebrated by more than 300 million people all around the world. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We discuss the important takeaways with regard to hustle and bustle of political campaigning in India. The mega startup Mahakumbh in New Delhi. And Indian Air Force conducts trial run of jet plane on Kodaiyaparu airstrip of Andhra Pradesh.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Our top stories. Electioneering heats up in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues mega southern push in Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, counters Rahul Gandhi's Shakti barb. Vladimir Putin wins Russian presidential polls for record sixth time. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Putin on his re-election. Armed confrontation pushing Haiti to anarchy, over 360,000 civilians displaced. And the election season has begun in India. And to talk about the political takeaways, developments of the day, joining me is Praful Ketkar, senior journalist, editor, organizer. Good evening and welcome, Praful. First, what do you make of the controversy around Rahul Gandhi's Shakti remarks and the manner in which Prime Minister has responded to it?
See, I think, Shubhendu, it is a classic case of self-goal by the opposition leader. Because perhaps he wanted to talk about the way he is trying to fight the political power, but the way he maintained and emphasized, in fact, that there is a word called Shakti in Hindu Dharma, and we are fighting against that Shakti. And then it was but obvious, the way he made it that as if, and then this has been, now a kind of a regular feature where he is making such remarks which are turning out to be self-goals, and Prime Minister used it to the maximum benefit. And he said, when we are trying to put best foot forward when it comes to the on the one hand the woman-led development, on the other hand the way we are trying to the idea of Shakti is very sacred in Indian tradition. In the entire Hindu philosophy, that symbolizes the feminine divinity, the power of feminine divinity. And when you are saying that I'm fighting against that Shakti, you are giving a totally different message to the electorates. And the Prime Minister used that, Bob, and gave a befitting reply in his public rally today.
You call it a self-goal, and the opposition will have to be careful about the choice of their words and remarks. As mentioned, Prime Minister does have a talent of turning around attacks into political ammunition. And we saw with the use of the word parivar earlier and the manner in which the leaders turned it around, the opposition going forward will have to be careful how they go about
it. Absolutely. Not this time. Shubhendu, every time opposition tried to, when opposition called him chaiwala, a tea vendor or a tea seller, he used it proudly. And in fact, he started his campaign as Chai Pe Charcha, a discussion over a cup of tea. And it became such a popular campaign in 2019 election when, there were accusations around Rafale deal and when the Bab was Chaukidar Chor hai, the guard himself is a thief, and he again turned it into a campaign slogan, and every popular hashtag, all the IDs on various social media platforms became like Main Bhi Chaukidar. So everybody started, actually joining the campaign. And this time when opposition parties, one of the opposition leaders said he doesn't have a family. So he was actually, when Prime Minister talked about the dynastic politics and people actually trying to protect the politics of their own children, the opposition counter was, oh, he anyway doesn't have a family, so how can he bother? And he said, entire nation is my family. And on the next day, there was a trend called, I'm also member of Modi's family. So he has always turned these kind of allegations. See, the problem is, Prime Minister has, asking a mandate on the basis of his government's performance on the one hand, and two, on his ideas about 2047 developed India. Now, ideally, it should be for the opposition to come out with an alternative. What do they think about next 25 years vision for India? Instead of that, they are trying to make certain allegations and accusations, and which are turning out to be disastrous for the opposition party, and that's why apparently this election in just the beginning of its campaign mode, but Prime Minister Modi already has taken a lead when it comes to the campaign and the communicating with the common voters.
And if we look at the list of allegations made by the opposition, once again on top, it appears comes the EVMs. This is apparently what Rahul Gandhi was trying to attack. But this allegation hasn't got them any traction in the previous elections. How could they achieve a different result this time over?
Shubhendu, not just among electorates. Supreme Court of India, the highest court, has also rejected the petition challenging. See, interestingly, it was the Congress party that has brought this technology, and it is one of the best technologies that we have introduced. World over, still many countries, even the so-called developed countries, are going via paper ballot. We are the ones who have, developed this unique machine with unique code where, a voter can register his or her vote, and there is a VVPAT technology where randomly we can just pick up the voter number and cross verify where the so that technological thing should be a matter of pride, and everywhere our election commission, because in this process what is happening, you are not just okay, you are as a opposition party, you have to question the government policies, and that is the crux of democracy. But when you say the life of a person in power lies in EVM, you are indirectly questioning the entire process of democracy and democratic institution, even the institutions like Election Commission of India. I think that kind of negative politics, that kind of politics of pessimism and negation is not going to work. What people perhaps looking at is a national level alternative with a national vision. Unfortunately, Congress party and its allies are not they are not able to provide that alternate vision, which is in tune with the national aspirations. And Prime Minister Modi is actually trying to address whether youth, whether people residing in rural India, especially women, he is trying to address their aspirations. And when you are doing aspirational politics, people tend to connect with you and your agenda. Somewhere Congress party and its leader Rahul Gandhi perhaps they're missing this point.
And Praful, Prime Minister today engaged in hectic campaigning in Telangana, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. We understand that the BJP, the NDA have a strong hold in the Hindi heartland, and there's a conscious southern push by Prime Minister, led by him. How do you assess this strategy?
I have a serious issue with calling this Hindi heartland. If you see the western parts, Gujarat, Rajasthan and Maharashtra, BJP has done, in last two elections.
The recent elections have also confirmed that.
If it comes to Gujarat, it is almost more than 25 years now. BJP is a ruling party, and Prime Minister Modi himself come from Gujarat. Gujarat doesn't belong to the so-called Hindi heartland. The entire northeast, consecutive 2 terms in Assam and most of the parts in northeast. It is the southern part where the two things. One, the strong presence of regional parties, and two, there some kind of language barrier when it comes to the communication. Now, what has changed? There are two things that have changed. One, Prime Minister Modi in last 5 years, every time he has communicated to the voters through his programs and the execution on the program, whether you vote for us or not, when it comes to the governance, when it comes to the delivery, we are there with you. So perhaps the highest number of times he has visited any state is perhaps Tamil Nadu, and he has spoken about the Tamil language on every possible platform, from G20 to international other international platforms, and he is trying to connect. Now, what he has got is local leadership that can assist him in communicating his programs and ideas in the local language. Now, that is giving a lot of traction. That is giving a lot of traction to BJP in the southern states. And that is why he has done this massive roadshow. Coimbatore and Tirupur, these are the areas where BJP had conventionally done better than other areas. Kanyakumari is another seat where BJP is looking to again reclaim that seat, which at one point poor Radhakrishnan used to contest and win from. So these are the places. Karnataka, last election, parliamentary election, BJP had done well, but had some setback when it came to assembly election. Now BJP is trying to regain that position of dominance in alliance with JDS. Now, if you see the tactical alliance, what has happened with TDP, for example, because there is a lot of anti-incumbency when it comes to Andhra Pradesh. There BJP has done a wonderful alliance with Janasena and TDP. In Tamil Nadu also, it is one fraction of AIDMK, there is MDMK, and perhaps the Tamil Manila Congress. So all these things coming together, BJP is trying to build a kind of, or put a new kind of foothold in these areas. Because if BJP wants to realize the slogan that Parliament, that Prime Minister has pronounced in the Parliament, that as an alliance, NDA will go for 400 plus, 400 par. If that is to be realized, then in many of the western and northern states, BJP has already reached a saturation point. So if BJP NDA has to gain some space and seats, it has to be in the southern part of India. And that is why in last 15 days, we have seen Prime Minister Modi has visited state like Tamil Nadu at least 4 times. And that clearly shows the prioritization of campaign strategy of the ruling party.
Okay, and finally, if we were to analyze the opposition in a similar context, to what extent can Congress and regional allies bank on their support in the southern states, and what kind of dent are they able to make in BJP's strongholds in the north and northeast, as you mentioned?
See, originally idea when it started 10 months back, when they formed some kind of alliance called Indie Alliance under the leadership of Congress. The original idea was at least 200-250 seats they would be able to give 1-to-1 contest to BJP. So there would not be any triangular contest. But what has happened, like we have seen in Bengal, Mamata Banerjee and her Trinamool Congress has gone independent. She has already announced 42 seats. In Uttar Pradesh, though Samajwadi Party has given 17 seats, RLD, which was at one point was part of India Alliance, is now out and joined the India camp. BSP, Congress tried its best, but did not join the India camp. So most of the places where Congress already had 1-to-1 contest with BJP, again, the strike rate against Congress of Bharatiya Janata Party is around 90%. It continues to remain so in 1-to-1 context, as we have seen in the recent assembly election. When it comes to the regional parties, there Congress has failed in stitching a grand umbrella alliance where there would be a genuine 1-to-1 contest. And in first post pass system, if you are not able to, because in the central India, western India, northern India, there were many places, most of the constituencies where BJP already had, like in Delhi, most of the constituencies, in fact all the constituencies, BJP was more than 50% of actual votes, that votes were polled. So more than 50% to 62% of vote percentage. There, even if you have alliance with Aam Aadmi Party, it is not going to make much difference. So on the one hand, when the alliance formation, and the other hand, the providing an alternative grand idea for the future of India. In both these fronts, I think Prime Minister Modi, Bharatiya Janata Party, and NDA as an alliance has a clear edge over Congress and its allies of India Alliance.
On that note, thank you very much, Praful, for joining us on the News Hour and sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
Moving on, North Korea's frequent ballistic missile launches have been condemned by United States, South Korea and Japan as actions that endanger regional security and peace. North Korea fired several ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan on Monday. Meanwhile, China has denounced the invitation of Taiwan to the third summit of democracy, which is being hosted by South Korea in Seoul.
Days after the end of South Korean US military drills that North Korea views as invasion rehearsals, it fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles towards its eastern waters on Monday morning. North Korea didn't perform any missile tests during its rivals' training, as it carried out missile tests last mid-February by firing cruise missiles into the sea. South Korea called the launches a clear provocation that threatens peace on the Korean Peninsula. I believe North Korea has continued to repeat provocations because they don't have much to lose by making them. We welcome dialogue with North Korea. but our government maintains a firm policy of holding North Korea accountable if it makes a wrong decision. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says North Korea's missiles landed outside the waters of Japan's exclusive economic zone with no damage, but warned North Korea.
North Korea has repeatedly launched ballistic missiles quite often since the beginning of this year. A series of actions by North Korea threaten the peace and security of our country, the region and the international community and are absolutely unacceptable. The latest ballistic missile launch was a violation of related UN resolutions and we are strongly condemn it. We have already lodged a stern protest against North Korea.
North Korea's move comes at a time when US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in South Korea to attend the third summit for democracy, condemned North Korea for violating UN Security Council resolutions. The involvement of major powers such as the United States, China, Russia and Japan in the Korean Peninsula adds a layer of complexity to the situation as their interests and strategies influence regional dynamics. China is unhappy about inviting Taiwan to a summit for democracy and urged South Korea not to provide it a platform. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Let's now turn to other stories making news today. Air Force Chief of South Korea, General Lee Yong-soo, called on the Indian Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary in New Delhi today. Both Air Force chiefs discussed issues of mutual interest and means to further enhance cooperation between the two air forces. A bilateral tri-service humanitarian assistance and disaster relief exercise between the US and India is scheduled on the eastern seaboard from 18th to 31st of March. Indian Navy aircraft, Indian Army personnel and Indian Air Force aircraft would be participating in this exercise. Indian Air Force's fighter jets and cargo planes conducted a trial run on the highway airstrip in Kodisapuru, Andhra Pradesh. The highlight of the event was successful landing of an N-32 cargo plane on the airstrip. 2 people died after a 5-story building illegally under construction collapsed in the eastern city of Kolkata in West Bengal on Monday. 13 people have been rescued. West Bengal Governor C.V. Ananda Bose arrived at the incident site in South Kolkata. The country's biggest startup Mahakumbh is being held in New Delhi's Bharat Mandapam to give global wings to Indian startup ecosystems. The aim is to ramp up India's startup system, taking it from number 3 to number 1 in the world. India is bringing in new startup policy on deep tech sector. Our correspondent Ajay Mishra gets us more.
New Delhi's Grand Convention Centre, Bharat Mandapam, is holding this year's first mega startup event, India's Startup Mahakumbh 2024. Over 50,000 business delegates, more than 1,000 investors from India and abroad, over 1,000 startup exhibitors and more than 500 incubators are participating in it. India has the world's third largest startup ecosystem, encompassing AI and SaaS, agri-tech, climate tech, deep tech and biopharma among 10 focus sectors. The Startup Mahakumbh runs from Monday to Wednesday and will showcase India's solutions to the world.
All of you must actually first become an AI company. First become an AI company and then do everything else. Reverse, re-engineer, completely become an AI company. That will make you transform. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This Mahakumbh, to my mind, is a great event. It really brings a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for India.
After the launch of Startup India, a fund of around $6.75 billion has been facilitated for startups. The government also has a fund of funds of $1.2 billion. Commerce and Industry Secretary R.K. Singh informed that a new deep tech policy is close to being finalized.
Government of India is in the process of creating a separate, dedicated deep tech startup policy. The policy paper is now in the final stages of discussion, of interministerial discussions, and we hope to bring it forward soon. And after that, we will hopefully move towards creating a dedicated fund of funds again, since government wants to do it in an arm's length manner. We don't want to sort of start picking winners and losers in business, which is why we created this concept of AIFs and fund of funds.
Over $140 billion have been invested in India's startup ecosystem to date. More than 130,000 tech ventures are working on solutions for various problems. India is making every effort to take its startup ecosystem to a higher level through Startup Mahakumbh. The Startup Mahakumbh is likely to be organized every year. Over 5,000 new startup entrepreneurs are expected to emerge out of this event. In 2023, startup funding had fallen to its lowest levels in 7 years. Compared to $25 billion investment in 2022, only $7 billion investment was made in 2023. It's being anticipated that 2024 will see the return of big-ticket investments in India's startup ecosystem. ASSOCHAM, NASSCOM, Bootstrap Foundation and IVCA, in association with India's Ministry of Commerce, are organizing this Mahakumbh. It aims to give wings to the country's startup ecosystem on a global scale. Ajay Mishra's report, DD India, Delhi.
Let's turn to sports. Let's talk about hockey. Hockey India names 27-member Indian men's hockey team for Australia tour. The team will be led by Harmanpreet Singh and vice-captain by Hardik Singh. The first match of Australia tour will take place on 6th of April this year in Perth. The tour will also be a litmus test for the team in their preparations for the Olympic Games in Paris 2024. Chief coach Craig Fulton has opted to go with the almost entire core group in order to give players optimum chance to showcase their potential before final 16-member team is selected for the Olympic Games of Paris. The Indian team will leave from New Delhi on 1st April, will return on the 15th. Malaysia's Olympic Council proposed holding a downsized Commonwealth Games in 2026 as the country considers replacing the event's original host. Muhammad Nasifuddin Najib, the Secretary General of Olympic Council of Malaysia, also proposed several measures to reduce costs, such as using standard hotels and accommodation facilities to house athletes and officials instead of building a dedicated games village. The offer has received mixed responses in Malaysia amid concerns over spending costs and lack of preparation time. Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh has said that the matter would be discussed in the cabinet this week before the government makes a decision. Australia's southern state of Victoria pulled out of hosting the 2026 event in July 2023, citing a projected cost blowout.
Golden opportunity that we should consider, because there will be no other chance if we want to host the Commonwealth Games, Asian Games or Olympics. They will be really high on cost for us to host. We also feel that this can be a downsized games. For example, it doesn't have to be 15 sports, it can be 10 sports, and then we have a smaller opening and a smaller closing ceremony.
That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.